Oh, hi there. I wanted to continue the conversation again about the Ukraine Russian situation. And what I believe is a real possibility of another reason why Russia more they want more of the territory surrounding the Black Sea. A lot of people feel as though that they're after Kiev and they want to establish a more pro-Russian government, which is, probably in the cards, but not a necessity. It's not the economic target. Obviously, they want the southern part, which is controlling the Black Sea in a more efficient manner, in their opinion. And there is a theory I have as to why they want the Black Sea. I mean, they got Crimea. That was, something they'd wanted for a while. It was an embarrassment that they lost that, even though it happened a long time ago. And it is a hub of economic, you know, activity, and it's definitely something the Russian Federation wanted. Um, However, let's pause that for a moment and think of something else on the table: national embarrassment. You remember a few years ago when the American Navy had one of the Chinese supposed undetectable submarines appear in the middle of their convoy, and, basically nothing came of that other than, an embarrassment for the American Navy. Um, yeah, that went around the world, and, certain countries that do not like the United States had a big giant laugh about that. Um, but who's to say that the Chinese limit their desire to humiliate anyone they see as a potential rivalry country? Um, as a matter of fact, they do so quite often. The Indians, when they fought the little war they had with the Chinese actually sort of made themselves look like the respectable good guys, but behind the scenes they did nefarious things, and it was for nefarious reasons. And that's typically how they like to do things. I mean, it's plain as day obvious to most people that the Chinese Communist Party is pure evil and not a good thing. And any good thing that seems to be said about them is obviously a lie. I mean, here in the West, there were news stories about, oh, how well they treated the COVID situation in China, and they were actually praised for doing that, even though the virus came from there, and even though they were very, very harsh against an already battered civilian population because of their slavery. We'll put all that aside. Um, they like to humiliate their enemies. And a way of doing this, and this is a working theory of mine, Kazakhstan used to be a Russian territory. It was part of the Soviet Union. Not one well paid attention to. There wasn't much there. It wasn't really worth having a significant army there or anything like that. Easy to pass through in today's standards, especially with the Soviet Union and its decline. Um, then who's next door to Kazakhstan? Georgia. Georgia is an independent republic. It has been since the collapse of the Soviet Union, although 20% of the territory is under Russian military occupation. Supposing this, as an act of humiliation, what if the Chinese somehow, perhaps through bribery of the Georgians, perhaps they were able to sneak merchant goods through vehicles that were disguising a submarine. Doesn't have to be a big one, a few man crew will do. And they had the intention of bringing this vessel into the Black Sea. This would be a huge slap in the face to the entire region, most notably the Ukraine, because maybe at that point in time, I believe in that point in time they had Crimea and they had most control over it. And the Georgian part, kind of loosely affiliated with the Russians, even though independent, supposedly they're not really their own country, slipped by Russian defenses and brought a submarine, perhaps even with a nuclear weapon, who knows. I think more the embarrassment factor was more of the essential goal. And, simply have a kamikaze crew be there to be used as a propaganda tool. They send images back to Peking, and the Chinese Communist Party distributes this around the world, slap in the face of the Russians, slap in the face of the Georgians, slap in the face of the Ukrainians, and, to a lesser extent, the Turks as well. And now the Russians, everyone will be quick to blame everybody else. That's how it goes. The Georgians will say, well, we were under, 20% Russian occupation. And that probably varied throughout the years, depending on the years. It's the Russians' fault. They should have seen this coming. And we will punish anyone who may have been bribed into allowing this, or did the Chinese just sneak their way in? That, was not a story that was made public or anything like that, so maybe it isn't even true. But I think there's a very real possibility of it, because the Chinese Navy wants to say, we can put our submarines anywhere in the world. They could be in the Great Lakes for all we know. And, that would be like, okay, this is highly embarrassing. We're just not going to talk about it in public. But that could be what happened with the Black Sea. And now the Russians are going, that can never happen again. It will never happen again, because we want more control over the Black Sea. And with the control of the Crimea and moving westward along the bank, controlling more of the Black Sea, they can effectively protect it better from humiliation, threats of nuclear war, probably any really nasty chemicals that the Chinese could have put into the Black Sea. I think that is the most plausible route to have gotten to the Black Sea. There is the possibility that they managed to get through the other pass, which goes through the Red Sea into the Suez Canal, past the Egyptians, and maybe at the time the Israelis. No, I don't think the Israelis, but anyway, the Israelis have an eye on it anyway. It's kind of a sore spot for them. And gone past Greece, and maybe even past Turkey, not bloody likely, um, and then into the Black Sea. But supposing the Turks allowed this because they hate the Russians and want to humiliate the Russians. Did you think about that? And they accepted a bribe because, Turkey is not exactly a wealthy country. It's a military power, million man strong army that they admit to, or this is the official numbers. Um, it is quite possible they took a bribe from the Chinese just for the sole purpose of sending uh, a small submarine, small to medium sized submarine. Every inch counts in this little insult to the world. Um, and I look at it and go, every time the Chinese are able to do something that's humiliating for the rest of the world, it's not that it makes them look good. It makes them, look evilly intelligent. It just undermines the intelligence of everyone else. Because they have this kind of silly philosophy that they're going to control the world one day. And, it's not going to happen, but they think that anyway. Um, and we've seen examples where the Chinese are trying to control the water. They're trying to get into the Arctic Council. They have no business being there. They're not along the Arctic borders. The Russians don't like it. All the people in the Arctic Council do not like it. Americans, Canadians, Icelandics, Norwegians, Russians, they all don't like it. And will absolutely, no, not happening. And to this date, they are not part of the Arctic Council. But with this little humiliation, that's a hypothetical. You're not going to find that story on the internet, except for possibly from me. I think that that might be the rationale to a reasonable reason why Russia wants to invade the Ukraine. In the West, the media has most certainly pitched the idea that this is Soviet aggression or even redemption, one person said, for bad things that happened to Russia. That's kind of far fetched, in my opinion. So, with this being seen that way, the more logical side of things and why things have to be, those parts of the story are ignored or forgotten or don't even. It's like it doesn't happen because people don't talk about it, and they don't know about it. They don't even know how to think about it. And geography is a fascinating field. It really clarifies so much. And you know, uh, the Chinese submarines do have the ability of launching missiles while underwater that are effective, fast. And, the thing about a kamikaze crew is they don't actually have to know they're a kamikaze crew, except for maybe the captain knows and maybe one, or a few bodyguards know. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoopsie daisy, we trusted the wrong person, and look what happened. Because obviously, getting into the Black Sea, humiliating the Russians, and then getting back to China, I mean, they'd be awarded every, piece of tin, plastic, metal they can think of. I mean, you've seen those North Korean medals that they wear, those round things, and they got like 20 of them or 30 of them on themselves. The Chinese have their own versions of military medals, and the prestige and the power that would come to Chinese lower-ranking officers and soldiers and Navy personnel for achieving this great honor for the Chinese Communist Party in embarrassing the Russians. And the thing is, the Ukrainians, although their navy has improved, um, it's still not up to the task of finding undetectable nuclear submarines. The Black Sea looks kind of tiny on a map, but it's not that small, actually. And it is feasible that a submarine could have gotten into there for the specific purpose of humiliation. And, um, I think that the Russians believe that they are in a better position to make sure that never happens again. And in order for them to do that, they need to control more of the Black Sea. Um, that's, a theory I'm going with. There may be no validity to it whatsoever. And it may be a story of maybe it happened, we won't tell you. Maybe it didn't happen, we won't tell you. Um, yeah, that's actually a common practice for things that people do when they don't want to explain things. Um, so, I definitely think the Chinese would like that idea, that they were capable of doing that and going back. That's something I definitely believe is true. I think going through Kazakhstan while Russia was in decline and worried about other things, preoccupied with other problems, very possible. Bribing Georgian officials, if not just sneaking, which would make them look even better if they managed to espionage, sneak through Georgia into the Black Sea. Um, um, you know, um, what can I say? I mean, I brought up earlier that they'd all be blaming themselves. The Russians be like, Ukrainians, how come you didn't do anything about this? This is the West's fault. The Georgians would be blaming the Russians because the Russian occupation there. The Russians would blame both the Ukrainians and the Georgians because the Georgians technically had their own republic. Um, and perhaps corruption of bribery. Or perhaps they would lie, even if they didn't believe that it was bribery, and say that, that's what it was. Therefore, it's your fault that that happened. Um, because even if the Georgians are under military occupation, they will see the flaws in the Russian military that's standing there, and there will be opportunities where an embarrassment level like that could have happened. And money has a way of, convincing people to do stupid things, as it were. Okay. So I'm working on that as a possible motive for Russian aggression against the Ukrainians. There are probably a whole host of reasons. And I think this might be a reason that a lot of people didn't think about. And now you might start to ponder. Anyway, have a good night, and I will talk to you later.